Serving the Treasure Coast at 88.9 FM and around the world at WQCS.org.
This time we're going to go ahead and over. Oh, yep. Search for all his sins and all its years. I believe all its paperwork
Success, no exceptions.
What if after 20 years you remember to do that? At this time, we're going to go ahead and turn this over to Dr. Prince.
All right, good morning. It's good to see everybody. I wanted to thank staff. I was out last week for a minor medical issue, but I'm all back and ready to take a big swing today. But speaking of that, Dr. Mills also had a surgical procedure, and she is online. I want to wish her the best and a speedy recovery. I've been exchanging a few texts with her, and she is online, and I'd ask the board to please, so she can hear, that whenever you make any comments, if you could talk kind of like I'm doing directly into the mic so she can hear everybody and any of the comments that you have. So we're going to jump right in today. First of all, I want to talk about the referendum renewal. And you have the PowerPoints in front of you. I want to talk very briefly because November is going to come up on us very quickly. And this is the recommended ballot language, which is pretty much unchanged from the ballot language that was approved in 2019 and also in 2022. I'm really pleased to say that both the initial approval of the voters for the referendum that goes for basically teacher pay and pays for our sheriff's deputies in all of our schools, and also mental health and other ancillary costs. But we've been good stewards, and that's really been reflected with the taxpayers basically renewing this at about a 70% approval rate. So that's great news for us. I wanted to share a couple of things that for the folks that are viewing this. We do have a website. It's on our splash page, and basically it's a site for our referendum, and it shows exactly how every single dollar of referendum dollars are spent. And it goes, you can click on a pie chart, and you can see exactly how much every school gets, what it pays for, and it does a deep dive. And we do that with a lot of transparency because we want to be good stewards for the public. I'd also say the PAC, we're ramping that back up again, and that's our, the school district is not allowed to promote in any way, shape, or form supporting the referendum to taxpayers, but we do have a PAC, and that PAC has paid for polling, and once again, the polling has been very strong with regards to the public overwhelmingly supporting paying our teachers more. They want to see school resource deputies in our schools, and they also care very dearly about the mental health of our children and our students, and that continues to poll very high, which bodes well for us with regards to the renewal. And that's why we want to make sure that the language that we've used in the past remains pretty much unchanged, because that's what our voters care about, and that's how the dollars have been spent. I wanted to share with you very briefly a timeline of, the next steps. So, basically we've been conferring with the Supervisor of Elections and the Board of County Commissioners. I plan to present to the board our ballot language that will go on the board agenda in March at our regular school board meeting, and then in April that will also go to the county commission to approve the ballot language, and also to put it on the ballot for the Supervisor of Elections. And I'm not going to read through all that, but the bottom line is, based on the law, it doesn't, the referendum cannot go for a special election or a primary. It has to go for a general election in November. So it will appear on the ballot in November at that time. And that pretty much concludes that portion of the program. Are there any questions before we move forward? And once again, this will be on the board. I just wanted you to be aware it's going to be on the board agenda in March, and it will be on the county commission agenda, and I'll let you know the date that occurs. Sometimes some of our board members do attend that county commission meeting just to be a presence there whenever we do move that forward.
Chair Ingersoll? I have a question. It doesn't state in this ballot language anywhere that it's a reauthorization or a renewal, and I'm wondering why we chose not to add that.
It's a continuation. Is it not on there? It should say continuation.
Continue the current.
Yes, it's the last. It says, shall the St. Lucie County School District continue the current annual ad valorem operating millage of 1 mil?
Oh, there's where the shall is.
Is that the same language you used last time we re-upped it?
Yes. Any other questions?
Go ahead.
I don't know if this is the forum that we want to discuss this, but the language that we use here in order to raise salaries for teachers and recruit and retain highly qualified teachers, would you explain how that in terms of salaries, do we want to go there today? How it, this money is directed for the teachers, but we have other monies, that.
Yes. So that's a good point that you raise, Mrs. Richardson, because because of the referendum, we're able to provide salary increases for our teachers through the referendum dollars and through what are called TSIA dollars, which are the state's allocation that is laned for teachers. Because of the referendum and TSIA dollars, that actually offsets funding that we have through our general fund that we're able to compensate at approximately the same percentage or level as our teachers, our support staff, our CWA employees, with a pretty percentage-wise, comparably speaking, at about the same rate that our teachers have gotten over the past 6 years.
So 101 is that the language here is the teachers are going to be taken care of via this.
Correct.
And then the monies that we would have put to the teachers is now going to be going to the CWA and all of these other staff. They're going to be taken care of.
Yeah, the bottom line is, we prioritize all of our employees, but because of the benefits of the referendum allows us to give kind of a cherry on top with regards to what we're able to compensate teachers. They get additional dollars based on their experience, which offsets our general fund because it's a completely different funding source. And then we're able to use the dollars that we might use to compensate teachers to direct that into compensating our CWA and our support staff and our non-instructional, non-teaching units.
Okay, because it's important that we understand that entity is not being shortchanged.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, thank
And
you.
to your point, all of our employees are important. And I know that's important.
Absolutely,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, so speaking of cost savings, I wanted to provide a budget timeline. Now, I have met with some of you individually with regards to the budget. For the first time in recent history, we've had this conversation and without doing a deep dive, over the last 15 to 20 years, we can't recall a time where St. Lucie Public Schools saw a drop in enrollment. We've been gradually increasing by between 800 to 1,200 students annually with all of the single-family homes moving into the area, but with the implementation of the Florida Empowerment Scholarship and the options that families have with regards to using those scholarships either to go to private school, homeschool, micro school, you name it school. There's plenty of options for our families. So this year we saw a drop in enrollment we did not anticipate. So I've met privately with most of our board members. I still have some one-on-ones left to just have informal conversations, hear your thoughts about the budget in an informal setting. And I kind of wanted to provide a timeline a little bit for when we anticipate making some decisions. So based on my conversations with board members over the past few months, the considerations in our budget planning are as follows. Number one, we want to make sure that our students are safe. No matter what we do and whatever decision we make with regards to the budget, the safety of our students cannot be compromised. I'm also pleased to announce that at our last meeting, we approved a 3-year contract with our Sheriff's Department, and I think that that is a huge win for the district because it shows our commitment that we're going to make sure that we have a school resource deputy in every single one of our schools. We've got highly trained staff, and kudos to Sheriff Del Toro. We have a wonderful relationship with the Sheriff's Department, and we basically we've signed a 3-year deal that is going to continue that wonderful relationship. The second thing is with regards to a decline in enrollment, we want to avoid layoffs. We want to make sure that any decisions we make as a district is we value people. We make sure that we take care of our own, and we want to make sure that everybody has a landing spot, even if they're not in the same position that they were in. They're in a comparable position in which they're certified in, and we want to make sure that we prioritize that people can still make sure that they can provide for their families. So that is a priority. Next, we want to minimize the impact to classrooms. Teaching and learning is our number one priority. We're an A-rated district for a reason. At the last board workshop, we talked about how lean we are as a district, and we put all of our prioritization into classrooms, teaching, and learning in our school centers. That is going to continue. Next is we want to make sure that our union partners are partners in this process. We've been very transparent with our union leadership, with the presidents of CWA and also EASL. They understand our financial situation, and we've been very transparent, and we want to work in lockstep with our union partners to make sure that we keep them in the loop and we're communicating with whatever decisions are made with regards to the steps that we intend to take between now and the start of next year. And that goes back to communications. I plan in the next few weeks to record a message to our employees where I'm going to talk to our employees very transparently about our budget situation and also talk about the priorities you see here, that we prioritize people and making sure that we take care of our own, because that's the priority of the board, and that's exactly what you've communicated to me. And lastly is consider simultaneous reductions to federal funds and grants. The good news is what we're hearing from the federal level is last year we saw a $7 million a reduction in our federal dollars from the government, from the federal government, and from our understanding, we don't anticipate an additional reduction. That is what we're hearing. I can't etch that in stone because I'm not in Washington, but at least that's what we're hearing is we don't anticipate another hit to that effect. So the recommendations, whenever I make them, once again, is, each board member, we will have multiple conversations where we talk privately and informally about the board priorities prior to making any recommendations. But the number one thing is avoiding any kind of layoffs and prioritizing people, prioritizing district. This building will have proportionally a lot more reductions than we have out at our school centers, and also strategically preparing us for the future and kind of making sure that we're ready for whatever happens next year. The bottom line is I'm hoping our enrollment sees an increase. People are still moving here. Where I live, all these single-family homes are still going up. So I'm hoping last year was a one-time kind of a speed bump to the future. But no matter what, we'll position ourselves financially for the district that we're going to be prepared for anything. So I don't want to bore you with this, but the third calculation, that was the another $7 million hit that we took in January because of the decline in enrollment. We've frozen all of our positions. We wanted to make sure that whatever decisions we make going into next year, we have positions for people to go into. So, we've made sure to freeze all those positions. We shared our financial situation, not just with the principals, but with individual board members, and we've had conversations. We did bring in the principals into a meeting where we had a confidential meeting with principals where we got their priorities about what they needed and what they thought were their priorities moving into next year. And then the staff made recommendations to me. And this week I'm meeting individually with board members, and we're going to be sharing some updates with principals at a principal meeting on March 5th. And then we're going to start our union conversations. By the way, we've had informal union conversations back and forth about this. We're just talking about formal conversations with the union. And then I'll be making some final recommendations to the board if necessary, if we have any kind of changes that are unexpected. And then we'll share our final plan with the principals after I talk again with board members. And then the first week of April, we will be releasing allocations. And when I say release allocations, that means whatever adjustments we're going to make for next year, it's going to be public. So there we have it. Also, May and June, any employees, we will find a landing spot for. We will not be putting people out on the street. The bottom line is everybody is going to be in a spot so that they can provide for their families. So with that being said, before we move on to the next topic, I know I've talked to you individually, and I'd rather those individual conversations stay individual. But do you have any questions about the timeline or the process before we move forward?
Board members? We're good, Dr. Prince.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to bring up Dr. Wild. It is basically the Helen Wild show today. We are going to be speaking of cost savings and cost control. We've been exploring a health. First of all, we've got to do better with healthcare. That is a common recurring theme with regards to our employees. Is we have to do better. And I've heard from board members, you've expressed that to me. Whenever I go out and talk to employees, the number one thing that I hear from employees are concerns about our health care and healthcare plans. So we've been very actively and aggressively looking at what solutions and what alternatives can we provide to provide better care for our employees. And Dr. Wild is going to be sharing an initiative that I plan to bring before the board next month to explore. Dr. Wild.
All right. Good morning, Chairman Ingersoll, board members, Superintendent Prince. Happy to be here to talk about everybody's favorite subject, health insurance. It is a very challenging subject, and I first want to thank all of the people that serve on our health insurance committee year after year and contribute to the process that we have to go through and the decisions that we have to make. In addition, there are some people who really contributed a lot of time and effort to prepare for this presentation, and I want to thank them. That is Michelle Thomas, Kim Albritton, Ginger Russell, and Marcy DeWeese out there in the audience. They have been fantastic in pulling data for this presentation that has disappeared from the screens. While our resident tech expert, okay, there it is, came back up. Thank you, Terrence. I also want to recognize a guest that we have here in the audience with us today. We have Mr. Darren Bryan. He is with Avail Analytics, and he is a partner with Fleet. I'm going to tell you all about Fleet, but I would like to ask Mr. Bryan to stand and be recognized for his attendance today. All right. Let me move right into it now and first go over the topics we're going to cover. I first want to tell you a little bit about our current health insurance enrollment and the plans that our employees are enrolled in currently. Also, the history of premium increases and the number of times that we have gone out to bid to try to reduce our health insurance costs and improve benefits. Then I'm going to move into some definitions because health insurance is not something that most people are very familiar with. So just a few key terms to help with today's conversation. And then talk about this new opportunity that we are proposing that we pursue as a district and the proposed timeline. Currently, we do have 5 plan designs. You know, board members are aware that last year we did add a 5th plan. We do have to comply with the Affordable Care Act, and every so often that does require us to change our plans, the components of our plan, or add another plan. And in the yellow, you can see the number of employees in each of the different plans, and the plans are named with numbers, which can be difficult to remember. The newest plan is 5907, and 136 of our employees took advantage of that. And then you can see we do have our oldest plan, which is grandfathered in, and that has 400 employees on it. That number gets smaller every year as people retired, because new employees cannot join that plan. So 64% of our current employees are currently enrolled in one of our health care plans. And if you look at this chart, if you can read it on your copy, you can see the premium increases each year and how much the board contributes towards our employees' premium. You can see there circled is the amount that you contribute to every individual employee is $7,646 per year. And for the district, right now, that totals $27,249,000. In order to control costs, we often go out on the market, we issue an RFP, and Kim Albritton oversees that process with the entire Health Insurance Committee. And we attempt to get health insurance providers to compete by lowering their premium cost or adding extra incentives. Just a reminder that plan coverage is on a fiscal year calendar, not a school year calendar, so we also have to account for that whenever we're looking at annual costs. And our goal is always to improve costs, reduce costs, and improve benefits. In recent years, this is the number of times we've gone out for bid. This is a very time-consuming endeavor. Oftentimes, we don't get too many health insurance companies that even bid. And when we bid it out to see what it would look like for fully insured or self-insured. And I'll explain those terms in just a minute. Each time we've gone out to bid, we have continually selected Florida Blue as our provider, and it has reduced our rates. Now, you can see here, most years, we still realized a premium increase rate. Our goal was to make sure our rate was under what we were expected to go up to the following year and under market trends. So the committee does follow market trends. For example, for 2026, we were looking at the potential of a 30% increase in premiums, and we got it down to a 10.38% rate increase. And those other benefits are just listed there for your information because they do have a dollar value attached. Now I'm going to briefly just share some terminology with you. Fully insured is what St. Lucie Public Schools is right now, and this is when we partner with a traditional insurance company, a carrier, and they absorb the financial risks, and we pay a fixed monthly premium. The benefit is your premiums are locked for the year, it's stable. The disadvantage is it's costlier. We do have to pay additional taxes and fees that we wouldn't have to pay otherwise. Self-insured or self-funded, those terms are used interchangeably, is when an employer assumes the direct risks of the medical claims and pays them out of pocket as they occur. So it's not fixed and stable like the fully insured. However, large companies, large employers often do take this route to lower their costs and allow for more customization of benefits, more control over the plan itself, and to avoid those state premium taxes. Another term we'll talk about briefly is employer-sponsored health clinics. This comes up a lot to the Health Insurance Committee, to district leadership and union leadership, and why aren't we operating our own clinics? Well, there's really no advantage to that when you're fully insured. The advantage to employer-sponsored health clinics comes when you are self-insured. You're trying to lower costs with flat fees for medical services in a clinic, and this can be accomplished by contracting with an established clinic as well. It doesn't always entail opening your own building. Stop-loss insurance is also another important component that can be really confusing. It is a product that employers secure to help mitigate that risk. It's like a safety net that allows us to capitalize on the savings, but minimize our liability and our risk for high claims. So stop-loss insurance is also an important component that is part of all of this discussion. Just a little brief history here. St. Lucie Public Schools was actually self-insured up until 2029. I believe it was during the 80s we went to self-insured, and we were that way until 2009, at which time the Health Insurance Committee switched over to fully insured. Since then, we often have explored and brought to the board a conversation about going self-insured, but haven't recommended it as a committee because of several factors. We often felt we weren't in a position to take on the financial risk on our own as a district, and the extra workload to the risk management department without expanding our costs of employees. So there was the financial risks. There was also the initial upfront cost. You do have to have 3 months of upfront premiums available for that. There were some years where, it was around the COVID time, I believe, when our ACA fees were waived, and so the cost of the incentive to move towards it wasn't as strong during those years because those taxes that we pay were waived temporarily. They're back. And we did have a profit share incentive that looked like it could be lucrative, 100% profit sharing. We haven't yielded profits as often as we would like. So all of those things do make looking at new ways to go self-insured or self-funded if we can find ways to mitigate those risks, those things that were holding us back before. And so Dr. Prince does attend superintendent meetings on a regular basis and learned about this new trust. Well, it's not new. I'm going to tell you how long it's been established. He learned more about this trust that a lot of school districts are starting to join to share the risks. So, and Mr. Bryan is here as part of a partner organization that works with Fleet. And we have met with this group multiple times now and invited union leadership to meet with them as well and hear about the services that they can offer to us as a district. They are a nonprofit health insurance trust created only for the state of Florida, for school districts only. And their goal is to lower costs, improve benefits, and help districts maintain control. They do go back to 2009. under other names with the Florida School Board Insurance Trust. And you can see that how they operated previously. But then in April of 2025, they became FLEET, which stands for Florida Education Health Trust. And they joined FADS. They became a partner organization with FADS. And again, their purpose is to only serve school districts to mitigate these risks. When we met with FLEET, and Dr. Prince has heard several presentations, he's actually also spoken repeatedly to other superintendents across the state and learned about how they have transparent pricing. You know what your costs are going to be. They have collective buying power because it's more than one district, so you're multiplying the number of employees, which gives you more power when you're negotiating with health insurance providers. It helps to reduce your volatility of your expenses. It helps you share the risk, and it helps with stop-loss premium reduction and stabilization. They have advisors that help you with that. It is compliant with all statutes, and it does lower operational costs. Districts can join this if they are part of FADS, the Florida Association of District School Superintendents, if they are self-insured already or poised to move to self-insured, and if the school board is in support of making such a transition. In order to do so, the first step is to sign a participation agreement. That participation agreement does not obligate us to ultimately join FLEET, but it does allow FLEET access to all of our data to be able to do cost analysis, look at how they could help us, and give us additional information. That is the first step. The superintendent does plan on recommending that to the board in March to go ahead and sign that participation agreement, and that is also a recommendation of the Health Insurance Committee. Both unions were in attendance. Both union leadership teams were in attendance. That would then require us to take steps to become self-insured.
By the way, Dr. Wild, there is a cost associated with that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to go ahead and share that?
Yes, I do have a fee scale coming up
Okay.
in just a second, if that's okay. We would be moving towards self-insured, and they would help us, if we needed the help, to develop a transition plan. Then we would officially join FLEET, and I'll show you the fee structure with those two separate steps. And then the superintendent would become a member of the trustee, and that is about the fact that districts are on the board and they make decisions for FLEET. These are the 17 school districts that are currently part of FLEET. And you can see they're all different sizes across all different regions of the state. There are at least 3 more currently pursuing joining FLEET right now in about the same phase that we are in, maybe a little bit ahead of us.
So I just wanted to add, can you go back?
Mm-hmm.
Just because size provides buying power, the larger you are, so to get a sense of the size that this is growing into, so Collier Schools, that's about our size. That's about 55,000 students. Brevard is about 100,000 students. And when I talk about students, that's also comparable to employees, the number of employees involved. Polk is about 110,000 students. So we're talking about very large districts between Polk, Brevard, and Collier and St. Lucie. That's the size of those districts are getting close to the size of Dade County. So that's a significant amount of buying power when it comes to controlling costs.
Yes, thank you. And it does illustrate that they have become very adept at understanding the needs of public school district employees. Some of the additional highlights, the network is growing. The numbers that Dr. Prince has just talked about has continued to grow every single year. They do share what they learn as they go along with with their districts. We would get performance audits. We would have that collective strength. When we go out to bid, it's just us. This would give us collective strength. You can still use your health insurance provider. They will help organize the bid process to help advise on those decisions. And those decisions are still ours. So that's what it means, well, direct governance by the superintendents, and then the districts do still control all of their decision-making. Fleet is made up of different partners and operational components, which includes FADS for the administrative services, and then also Avail Analytics, which provides program management, and then Alliant provides actual, I always struggle with that. Structure, it is, let me show you. The one-time fee of the participation agreement is based on the size of the district. For our district, it's a $15,000 one-time fee. We did talk to the unions about that, both CWA and EASL. They were both in favor of pursuing it to see if this could yield us significant savings that could go eventually into compensation. So we were all in favor of pursuing it. And then the flat fee after that for a district our size is $20.75 per employee per month. Districts typically save 7 to 12% the first year they move from fully insured to self-insured. So that would be our first year anticipated savings. That is illustrated down at the bottom, and I want to thank Michelle for pulling this information. 7% for us would be a $1.9 million savings, and 12% would be 3.3. So it's a range of potential savings. And then in the additional 3 years, the range is from $5 million to $9.9 million in potential savings. Talked about the flat rate per employee with no hidden broker incentives. So we can't see, when you're fully insured, you can't see the back data about where the hidden fees are. Fiduciary duty is directly with the districts, so they are monitoring it. We do get reports for transparency and a shared network for expertise. The superintendent will be bringing a recommendation to the March board meeting to sign that participation agreement so that our risk management department, Ginger and Marcy, who I introduced earlier, can begin working with Fleet to develop, to release information that would allow them to give us more information. And then we would explore our transition before making a decision to become a Fleet member, which would be for the 2027 plan year, so for January 2027. And that concludes the formal presentation, Dr. Prince. What's that?
I said, don't go anywhere.
Okay.
Board members, any questions?
I have a question. So,
Mrs. Richardson, go ahead.
Thank you. So, right now, we're just talking about this. Okay, so, and this will go into effect next year. If it's.
Right now, we're talking about only signing the participation agreement to explore it, to have them have access to our data to see what they could propose for us, and then we would move into joining Fleet. In time, we would have to watch our timeline so that we could do it in January 2027 if that was the board's decision.
Okay, so that's next year.
Yes.
So it's a fast process. Okay.
Relatively.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, yeah. So we're looking at these savings, first year, $1 or $3 million, well, $2 or $3 million, $5 or $9 million after, $10 million after. So this potential savings that we're having, or we're going to get, or anticipating, what, do we even have any idea what we are going to do with this money? Is it going to go into general fund? What are we going to?
That would start being evident. Our savings would start to reveal themselves during the 27 and 28 school year. So therefore, in 2028, for the next school year, we would be looking at our entire financial picture, and those savings would be a part of that. So it would be an additional revenue source for our district when we go into compensation. It's too early to know what our total financial picture would be at that time, what the salary negotiation rules could come out of legislation in the meantime. So we couldn't put specifics on that yet, but we would anticipate a savings that we could potentially use for salaries.
You see, I like that word compensation, salary compensation.
Yes.
So that's where I was going. I was making
Right.
sure that we say those words.
Yes.
Thank
Well,
you.
I also wanted to add that, and maybe she probably, we had to step outside. We have a situation that we're dealing with, but the union partners have been part of our meetings.
Yes.
With regards to, did you mention that?
Uh-huh.
Okay, all right. So they have been part of this, and, you know, our goal is whatever money we can save is to put back into the pockets of our employees. That is always the priorities, and that's always been the board's priority is, you know, whenever we are able to save money, we want to make sure that we're giving it back to our employees. So that's the whole, that's the biggest goal, is not just control costs, because, you know, costs for insurance continue to rise. But with this plan, from my conversations with other superintendents that have gone down this path in those districts, it's not only suppressed costs, but it's actually allowed them to repurpose those costs into compensation opportunities for their employees.
Okay, and just to be clear, that the core, you know, or students comes first, but we're talking about really the salary compensation right now.
Yes.
You know that, okay.
And I understand that Dr. Mills has a question.
Go ahead, Dr. Mills.
Good morning, everyone. My question is in regards to the employee being able to continue, did you say, with their own providers if they choose to, or would it be mandatory that they go to one of either the one that we create as a school district or one of the health departments that we have in the community?
Okay, good morning, Dr. Mills. It's wonderful to see
Good
you,
morning.
and thank you. Excellent question. Whatever district decision is made, it's still the district's decision about which healthcare provider we go with. So if, for example, we went through this process and we still selected Florida Blue as our health insurance provider, all of our employees would stay on Florida Blue. If we selected a different provider, all of our employees would go for a different provider. So in that regard, it doesn't change. It's still every employee has the option to take our insurance with whatever provider we select. So that doesn't change this process at all. What it does is lowers costs to the district and the employee, because it lowers premium costs, even if we stay with Florida Blue. And if we were to add a clinic, it would add another option of another place that they could go to with flat fees for services. Adding a clinic is not required when you go self-insured. It is just an option for a later time. That would come to the board at a much later date. But just want to be sure, currently, our employees, if they take our insurance, they get one of our plan designs. That does not change if we enter an agreement with Fleet or become a Fleet member.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Wiles.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Anybody else?
You're here.
Go ahead, Dr. Prince.
All right, staying with, you know, Dr. Wild is dominating the meeting. So the next presentation is the landscape for education has changed now that the money or the dollars follow the student. Students are able to use Florida Empowerment Scholarships or PEP scholarships for homeschool students. So there is a market for families that maybe homeschool their child that want to take a class that's offered at one of our schools, or an opportunity to take a band course or maybe a college course in one of our schools. So we are actually going to enter into being a provider. And Dr. Wild, well, another thing I also look at too is, we have hundreds of students across the district that have never, they've been homeschooled their entire careers. And this is also an opportunity that potentially being exposed to school or actually going and taking a class in one of our schools might spark an interest to become fully enrolled in one of our schools. So we're looking into being a provider for a la carte courses, and Dr. Wild is going to explain what that's going to look like and how that is going to be implemented for the upcoming year.
Okay. I did share that we were entering this arena at the last workshop when we talked about opportunities for revenue in a time of budget reductions. So during this segment, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Family Empowerment Scholarship for a refresher for all of you, and also the Florida Tax Credit Scholarships. There's a slight difference between the two. I'm going to go over especially two specific types of family empowerment scholarships. We're going to talk about the Personalized Education Program Scholarship, what that is, and also Step Up for Students and what that is. And then we'll move into explaining how St. Lucie Public Schools can become a provider for these families. A little brief history here. The Florida Tax Credit Scholarship Program actually was established in 2001, and it's a tax credit option for businesses to donate towards scholarships. And at that time, the full intent was only for families in financial need, families with limited resources. On March 27th, 2023, Governor DeSantis did sign House Bill 1, which expanded school choice options for students. And we've really seen the impact of that in recent years. As of 23-24 school year, the restrictions for financial eligibility were lifted, no income cap for families, anybody is eligible. And also they eliminated the caps on how many students could get it in some of the scholarship arenas. When a student gets a scholarship, one of these scholarships, it goes into an education savings account. So when you see the acronym ESA, that is an educational savings account in that student's name. Parents do receive a deposit of public funds on a schedule into a government-authorized savings account. And then the use of that has some restricted but multiple uses for those funds. It can be used, some examples are to fund private school tuition and fees, online learning programs, private tutoring, dual enrollment at a community college, and even in some cases, higher education expenses for the child's future college education, that's in one specific type. And other approved customized learning services and materials. When you hear people talking about materials that they're purchasing, there's been a lot of stories about what people are buying. They are buying those through a marketplace. It's an educational management account, and it's a marketplace. It's referred to as EMMA, another acronym, but EMMA is the marketplace. So if a family on a scholarship of any kind is looking for a private school, or they're looking for a place to take an individual course, or a way to get a reimbursement for something they bought on Amazon, they go to their EMMA account. So it's a market that is their own personal market with their own amount of money left to spend. The acronyms and the different definitions of the scholarships can be hard to keep up with, but there are several types. The first one is not a market that we will be working with. It is the Family Empowerment Scholarship for Educational Options. These are the students who are taking that scholarship to pay for private school tuition. They are full-time private school students. The second one is a market that we can invite into our schools to take courses, and this is the Family Empowerment Scholarship for Unique Abilities. Exceptional Student Education, ESE, is what we refer to it. Other states, special education, there's a lot of different terms, but it is specific to those eligible students. And then there's the Personalized Education Program, referred to as PEP, which often people associate with homeschool students, because they are, but I'll give a little bit more information. This is a snippet from a Step Up website, so I've enlarged the important facts. For the private school scholarships, the FES EOs, in St. Lucie County, they receive $8,000 toward their private school tuition or fees. This is one where there's no longer an income cap for the household income and no cap on enrollment, which is why we're seeing greater numbers take this scholarship. On that previous one, there's also no requirement for students to ever have been in public school, to elaborate on what Dr. Prince said. For the unique abilities, these can be spent on school tuition, so they can go to a private school or a public school who becomes a provider. It can be spent on therapy in the home, so if they are homeschooling, they can have different types of therapists, services that are required on their IEP into their home, their individual education plan, another acronym, or for these students into a college savings account for their future. This is for students age 3 to age 22. And for 24-25, this one is a little bit different because there was a cap of 70,000 students for 24-25, and the cap will annually increase by 3% on this one. So we're going to keep seeing the number of students taking this scholarship increase. These students may be registered homeschoolers or in private school, like I mentioned, and the average amount in this category is higher because they get weighted FTE for ESE services, and so the average is 10,000. There are students on either side of that number. The student must have an IEP, and the district is responsible for the reevaluations, the service plans, and updates to the cost matrix. Our school district is responsible for those services. And that is a lot of extra work on our district professionals. They do serve those students, whether or not they have ever been in our school system or we have met them. But they do, our folks do an excellent job, and the numbers have increased. Then we're going to talk about the Personalized Education Program. This one is also $8,000 per student. Parents taking this $8,000, they are shopping on the Emma Marketplace, and they are submitting for reimbursements. So those are their two options for how they spend that money. Spend it themselves and submit a receipt, or shop on the market for whatever it is they're going to utilize. And they do learn from home, but they're not district-registered homeschoolers. So there was a previous requirement that all homeschool students had to register with us, so we would know if a student was truant or homeschool. They no longer do that if they are a PEP student. They register with Step Up for Students. Let's look at the numbers here. In 23-24, that was the first time that they did allow homeschool students to apply for these scholarships, and they capped it at 20,000 students. Then 25-26, it's increased to 100,000 students. 26-27, next year, there'll be another 40,000 eligible students. And after that year, 27-28, the cap is removed. And that is according to current legislation. If they don't change anything, the cap would be removed with no cap. Home education versus PEP. I mentioned already that PEP students are registered with the Scholarship Funding Organization, which is Step Up for Students. Home education students, which we do still have, are registered with the school district. Parents on a PEP scholarship must submit a student learning plan. It's a template that they're provided. It does not determine or limit what they use the funds for, but it is required that they submit it. There is no learning plan requirement for homeschool students. Parents do receive those funds for their approved expenses, no funds provided for homeschool students. PEP students must take a norm reference test every year, and they must submit the results to the Scholarship Funding Organization. And home education students must also be assessed, but they have different types of tests and options that they can submit to the school district. Neither group have the requirements of third grade promotion, a test for graduation. They don't have those high stakes requirements in those two programs. Step Up for Students, there are two scholarship funding organizations, but Step Up for Students is the predominant one. And those are for both Family Empowerment Scholarships and STEP. And if you want to become a provider and have your services, whether you are a private tutor or a school district, you have to apply to be a provider on Step Up. We are looking at this opportunity as a revenue-generating opportunity and as an additional educational choice for families. And you know, we do know that some students will come and get very excited about the courses that they're taking on campus, and maybe they will see another choice for them and want to come back and join the district. So we're looking at a la carte services, and our contact for this, our lead on this work, is Bridget Hargadine. And Bridget is here, and she has put so much work into this, had many, many meetings with our contacts from Step Up for Students, as well as been working on the marketplace to see how it works, and piloting the program with the assistance of Kim Albritton in Business and Financial Services, so that we can establish a really smooth payment system, and also with Michelle Jerger on the process of how students would get into our system. What does that look like? Because it is very different. With these services, students would go through Step Up Marketplace. Bridget Hargadine would be posting what courses are available to students and coordinating that with the schools to offer those courses, including the times they're offered, how many seats available, and so forth. Students would be eligible for up to 3 courses. They may also sign up for additional special activities that we put on the marketplace. So for example, we do college fairs. We do 8th grade experience. We could open those experiences up to students, and they would pay for that from their scholarship. That is an allowable expense for them. And the course itself would have to be approved by the district so that the workload is not falling on the schools until the student is signed up, and I'll show you a little bit more. And then there's also going to be a special identifier for those students in Skyward, and there's several reasons for that. And we do need to thank Jim Dunn and Terrence O'Leary and his team for helping us work on what that process would look like. The students may also be approved to participate in testing on our campuses, and their approval form that they would receive from Mrs. Hargadine's office would show whether or not they were going to be taking tests on campus. Their tests do not count in the school grade, and they do not count in the teacher's evaluation. They won't be on the verification rosters that teachers have to do. They are considered scholarship students, not St. Lucie Public School students, so they don't count in any way in our data. Hence the reason they need a separate flag. They need to be separated from our data. They will also be entering and leaving campus on a unique schedule, much like our dual enrollment students currently do. And they will require their own transportation. We're going to talk about the parent contract now. The parent will be required to sign an agreement. We have also spoken to several other districts that are taking advantage of this opportunity, either a little bit ahead of us or right where we are in getting started. And we've shared ideas and best practices, lessons learned. And we will be stipulating upfront payment for the course, that it's non-refundable. Payment only through the Emma account, because that simplifies the process for the families and for our staff. The students would be subject to the Code of Conduct, all rules of the Code of Conduct they will be held to. And that is very important for us, for the safety and security of our students, and to not disrupt our learning environment as well. And they will receive grades for their courses with us. We will publish a cost structure, which I will show you. I will show you in just a second. And there's many different ways that we can offer classes. We could create a standalone course just for students that are on a scholarship, like build it into the schedule just for them. We could mix them into a schedule where a class is a little small and let them join in on a class. And then I already mentioned special activities and events. Students will be subjected to many of the same St. Lucie County policies that apply to all of our students, including, but not limited to, immunization requirements. And the students can be immediately withdrawn if they violate the Code of Conduct. The parent and the student will know that right up front. Very transparent process here. No refunds will be issued. And if a student has been expelled from our district or another district, they won't be eligible to attend classes on our campus. Students that are on a scholarship are actually not eligible for the FAPE, free and appropriate education requirements for students with disabilities. And this is true no matter where they go. If they go to a private school, they are not eligible for those services. Oh, I should mention the second part of that slide is that their scholarship funds are provided to them to purchase those services. So they still receive those services, and they select them with their scholarship. Before going to a school to enroll, they have to have several components of this. And we worked on this with some principal groups as well so that they would see the process here. And it will outline for the school what the student is taken. This is just how the process will work between the different departments. Parents will find the fact that we are a provider on our website. They will apply and sign the PEP contract. We are out there on the Step Up Marketplace, so they will find us in multiple places. The district staff, through the Student Assignment Office, will review their application and approve it through School Mint. That is the software that all of our students come into our district through. The parents will select which courses they want their child to take. The district will accept those courses and invoice their account. And that's where Kim Albritton's services have come into play here and her expertise. The district staff will then notify the school that a student is signing up for the course and notify the parent about the contract. The parent will register for the course, and then the school will provide the schedule for the child. Bridget will coordinate all of the individuals involved in the process. This is the fee structure. We looked at several different fee structures. We opted to go with one that is very straightforward, simple for the families to understand. It is aligned to the courses and the cost of those courses. And, we talk about weighted FTE. Some courses are more expensive to offer than others, either due to equipment or additional tests that are involved or limitations on class size and so forth. So the course prices have been adjusted accordingly for that. Virtual courses tend to be less expensive, and so those are less expensive on this course sheet. We have started a soft rollout of this to test it out, see how Emma works, see how it works in our school Mint and Skyward programs. Our first student was an ag student at Allapattah Flats, K-8, and ag is out there on the marketplace. We also have welding. We just released welding courses that are over in Performance-Based Preparatory Academy. Various times available for those courses. In second semester, we are doing some special events that we will open up to those families. And it's really just to test it. Then next year, we will be putting a full menu of courses out to students. We are looking at high-interest courses, career technical education programs that are harder to offer at home, some of the arts and some electives. ACE, the Cambridge program, is very popular for these families. And then also some special courses at magnet schools where there is space and so forth. We will be collecting feedback from the families as to what is interesting to them. We will be attending homeschool network meetings that they hold in the community, setting up a table and inviting people to take a look at what we have to offer. And that is it for today, unless there are any questions.
Any questions? Yes, Ms. Richardson?
So does this include sports?
Depending on what type of scholarship they are on, yes, it could include sports.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Looks like it's a wrap.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Just a couple of comments before we wrap up. I talked to our principals and also staff. The law of natural selection. I was a science teacher, and it's adapt or perish. We as a system, the market has changed. There's competition, and we're not going to sit back and wait for things to happen. We're going to be very aggressive with regards to opportunities. We have great opportunities here in St. Lucie Public Schools, and there are a lot of children that may not be exposed. They could be homeschooled, but maybe they want to be a forklift operator. Maybe they want to work on outboard marine engines. Maybe they want to be a diesel mechanic. I mean, maybe they want to be gosh, we have so many programs, but I'm just saying there are so many options for children, and we have options that we can offer to our community and children that may not attend our public schools, and this is a great opportunity for us to be aggressive with regards to the options that we do have. We want to be able to offer them to families. I want to thank Dr. Wild and Bridget Hargadine, who's really led this work. And we see this as, I don't like to say revenue generator, because it does generate revenue. I see it as an opportunity generator and providing opportunities and options for families to see our public schools as really places that great things happen at, and also it might spark an interest. Maybe I take one class, maybe I take two, or maybe I just re-enroll or enroll in one of our public schools for that full public school experience that I believe is good for children. So with that, Chairman Ingersoll, that is all of our formal presentations today. A couple of things to close on. One is we will be bringing the ballot language to the board for approval in March, which will go to the County Commission in April. The second is we will be bringing the agreement for fleet. I want to thank Mr. Dylan Bryan with Avail Analytics for being here today. We will be bringing that to the board to start that path. And once again, there's no commitment, but I foresee us, I hope, my goal is to aggressively pursue going self-insured as long as all of our ducks are in a row, that we can start in 2027 to dive into that so that we can provide the savings to our employees, and to your point, Mrs. Richardson, to put money back into the pockets of our folks. Okay? And that's all I have today, Mr. Ingersoll.
This meeting's adjourned.
To say because every business, is within a different sector.